Hey, welcome back to the CashPT Lunch Hour podcast. This is your host, Aaron LeBauer, and today my special guest is Ben Bagge. Ben is a cash practice owner out in the Bay Area in California, where I used to live and race bikes, and where I became a massage therapist. And Ben is on here today because I wanted him to share his story with you of starting a cash practice right out of PT school, and a little bit how he's crushing it now because he's got to move back to Iowa soon. So, Ben, thanks for joining us on the show. Really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Aaron. It means a lot. A little surreal being on here after turning this podcast for the last, 4 to 5 years for advice from you and the previous guests you've had on. So thank you.
Absolutely. So, Ben, let's just start from like the beginning, right? Like, how did you become a physical therapist? What was it that kind of got you into PT school in the first place? Like, why was it that I got to do physical therapy?
Yeah, great question. So I really didn't know what I wanted to do until like my junior year of college. I was really interested in the human body and was an exercise science major at University of Northern Iowa. And I knew I didn't really want to go down the med school route, but still wanted to help people just because I wasn't, in med school. I realized that once you get out of med school, I don't really get to spend much time with a patient. It's like 10, 15 minutes and then, you're out the door. And so I want to spend more time with my patients. So physical therapy was a perfect fit for me with regards to all that.
Yeah, right on. Did you have like a physical therapy experience, or was it you were exploring different options and that was one of the, just options that seemed like the good idea?
Yeah. I mean, it's typical physical therapy, physical therapist story is how they got interested. I had an injury in high school, knee injury during the basketball season, and went to PT for it. So that kind of really introduced me to the profession and kind of planted that seed.
Yeah. Awesome. And then, so in PT school, did you have any idea that you were going to start a business?
Yeah, I actually probably knew like it really started, when I was in physical therapy school, starting to think about that. It was usually, I think it was like halfway through my first year of PT school. I was pretty set on doing out network cash-based PT after checking out your podcast and a few others. Really got me interested. And so, yeah, that's when it really all started.
Yeah. What triggered that interest? Like, what was the thing that got you looking into different options, owning a business, or even if it's just going cash?
Yeah, it didn't take long when I got into PT school. Didn't realize that my dreams of being able to spend more one-on-one time with patients with PT wasn't actually a real thing, and that I was actually going to be doing exactly what I would have been doing if I wouldn't have went the med school route and really only seeing patients for 15, 30 minutes. And like, this isn't what I got into PT school for. I want to spend more time with my patients and started reaching out and kind of figuring out what are the ways that I can do that. And that's where I came across cash-based PT and out network practices. Yep.
Right. Awesome. And then was there anything that when you were in school and you had already kind of made this decision to, hey, I'm going to do the out of network thing, what did you start doing in school to prepare yourself to get started? Like, and did you get started right when you graduated, or I guess that's two questions.
Yeah. So to answer the first question is mainly like the last 2 years of PT school, it was on the way to school, on the way to these clinical rotations. I was listening to every podcast I could, whether it was Danny Mattei, Paul Goff, Jared Carter. I always took at least one tip or trick from each episode. And by the time I had graduated, I had this notebook full of ideas and I was able to kind of hit the ground running after graduation. And I really attribute a lot of that to the success I've had so far with things too.
Yeah. Awesome. And so you graduated, like you went to school in the Bay Area, right? Which did
I
you go to?
went to school. I went to school in Iowa at Clark
Oh, you
University.
did. Okay.
In Dubuque, Iowa. Yep.
Okay. And then, so you graduate from Iowa, and why'd you move out to the Bay Area?
Yeah, great question. So, so I knew I wanted to do cash-based PT eventually. I wanted to do more traveling and whatnot, and so I decided to let's do traveling PT for a year or two and get some of these loans paid off and whatnot, and kind of travel before I settle down and whatnot. So, anyways, got my California license, and I wanted to originally go to Southern California. Traveling agents usually you have to have like 2 years of experience because it's so popular for PTs wanting to do traveling PT there. So I have my California license and they're like, why don't you just go to the Bay Area for 13 weeks and let's check back in and see if we can get you in Southern California. I'm like, all right, only be here for 13 weeks, no big deal. Right. Now it's been like a year, 2 years. a year now.
Right.
And so I'm just like, whatever. But yeah, so that's kind of how I got out in the Bay Area initially.
Okay. And then, so you landed there. What was the next step? Was it, okay, you've got this contract job. Was it in a hospital or skilled nursing or just
Yeah,
outpatient?
it was outpatient. It was outpatient. And yeah, I could tell after the first week, I already kind of knew what I was going to get myself into. You know, when you work for, do traveling PT, you're going to get high level or high volumes of patients and see that and whatnot. But I didn't really realize how bad it was going to be until I actually got into it. And so I was like seeing like 20, 25 patients a day. And after that first week, I'm like, no, this isn't going to fly. So yeah, I got my first paycheck and I took that money that I got from my first paycheck and established a business entity and all liability stuff to really try and figure out, what works and what doesn't work with regards to out-of-network PT. Really didn't expect it to really grow and do a whole lot real fast. And so I'm like, well, let's just experiment, figure out what works, what doesn't work. And I'll take that information with me back home to Iowa and be able to apply it there.
Yeah.
And,
so you're like, let's just try this and see what happens.
Yeah, looking back on it, it sounds really dumb, but anyways, did it. And yeah, I grew much more quickly than I was anticipating. And yeah, so it kind of kept me here.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell me how many patients did you start seeing? Like how fast did you grow? Like what happened between now and when you graduated? Like where now? Like tell me about that. Like what's happened?
Yeah, so I started out, I was seeing like within the first month was kind of slow. I didn't really know what the hell I was doing, but and I was still working 40 hours. And so it was still a lot of that legal stuff of establishing the business entity and making sure, liability is covered and all that. And anyways, started really getting out into to like other gyms during the weekends and doing workshops and stuff to any and every gym that would listen to me. And at that time, I'd already found a place to start seeing patients and whatnot. So started building my caseload on the weekends there and seeing patients then. And as the 13 weeks went on, I think by the end of the 13 weeks, I was seeing about, I don't know, 10 to 15 patients. And I was really close to just scrapping and be like moving on and going to Southern California, going to Arizona and doing traveling PT.
Yeah.
And I was in the gym one morning before work and I came across this ad from Victoria Loop in San Ramon. And she was looking for a part-time PT. And because her physical therapist was going on maternity leave. And so I'm like, I think it's kind of a sign that I need to stay here. And because it was a great opportunity, she's so successful. She's so smart, both clinically and from a business standpoint. It was a perfect opportunity for me. And so I took it.
And she's strong.
Yeah, she is. She's strong. Yeah. So, but yeah, she's awesome. And yeah, I really appreciate my time with her because that was really the turning point with things.
Yeah.
But it was pretty stressful because I was seeing patients on my own, seeing patients for Victoria, and then still doing my traveling contract. So juggling 3 jobs and trying to build the business was a pretty stressful time. But I learned so much with Victoria, and that's kind of what really kept me here. And yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So you're working for Victoria, the contract ends, and then what next? So it's just you're seeing people for her, and then you're seeing people for yourself. And then what happened?
So,
like, how'd you get that to keep growing?
Yeah, great question. So I was working for her. I started in January of 2019, and discontinued working for her in April. One, because it was perfect timing for both of us. Her PT was coming back from maternity leave, and I established a full caseload at that time. So November 2018 was when I started my practice, and then yeah, I was full time by April 2019 and on my own.
Wow. So November, December, January, February, March. So 6 months. What was your full-time caseload? Was it 20 people, 30 people?
Yeah, it was between 25 to 30.
Yeah.
And that's a lot when you're trying to juggle ramping up and doing all the marketing and all the sales and diving in on everything and learning everything at the same time. So yeah, that was about my cap.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. And you're in the Bay Area where there's definitely a lot of other physical therapists, businesses, probably some cash practices, right? And massage therapists are really highly regarded in California because I was one of them. People came to see me. They're like, Aaron, I'm coming to see you because I know I need to see my massage therapist when I tweak my back. and they couldn't get in to see their PT. You know, did you find like, is there competition or?
I mean, not really. I mean, it's what we do with regards to out of network PT is so different from, what others offer. And actually, I think when a patient, most of our patients the patients I've seen are ones that have failed PT in the past.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually easier to get them, to see the value in what we do and opt out of their insurance because they know what other physical therapy is like.
Right.
And so it actually helped when having that other so-and-so competition, because it showed my value and the difference that we bring.
Yeah, that's awesome. What are some of the top marketing strategies you use to get your business off the ground and build up a full caseload in just 6 months?
Yeah, so definitely networking. Every gym within like a 10 mile radius, we've been pretty much in contact with and doing workshops monthly, usually, or every semi-monthly, and just getting my name out there that way and showing gym owners, I'm not going to be the PT that tells them, oh, stop working out. Usually that's the worst thing that can happen to a patient, to have them stop working out, right? That leads to other injuries. And so I just let them know, like, hey, I'm gonna do everything that I can to keep them to working out, because that's what's going to eventually help them in the long run as well. And so that's where gym owners really like to hear, and how I can bring value to them, right? Rather than, oh, just let me do workshops so I can get patients, right?
Right.
So,
yeah. Was there a specific way that you approached the gym owners? Like, how did you do it? Like, was it through an introduction? Was it just like a cold call? Did you show up and work out?
Yeah, starting out, it was like kind of like I didn't call. I tried calling. Like I struck out with a couple gyms early on, because I had no idea what I was doing. But I started learning real fast. Rejection makes you learn real fast on what works and what doesn't work. And so it was mainly going out and just meeting them and stopping by the gym and just telling them, like, hey, can I get a workout in, and just speak with them about what I do and how I can bring value to their gym.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I'm just going to pause a second. You froze a little bit.
Make your kind.
Yeah, it kind of froze. You still there? Let me know when you come back. It's a bummer. Close that guy. You there, Ben? You back?
Yeah, just like I went to go fix the internet. Hold on.
Okay.
I don't know what happened here. Hold on.
Yeah, it's okay.
There we go.
That's what editing is all about.
Yeah, sorry about that. I know it's frustrating.
I've done enough of these.
Yeah.
I've been on webinars with 250 people, and all of a sudden, people disappear.
Right.
So
yeah. So I'm bothered about that. But
yeah. So let's get back into that. So it sounds like, so you were saying that one of the best ways to build up your business starting was getting out in the community, creating relationships, and not just cold calling people, but going and working out at the gyms and trying to get a conversation with the owners, right?
Exactly. And then big thing is, I would go on to the websites and look at when are their class times. You don't want to be showing up halfway or like right in between classes when they're trying to start one up. I usually stop by after their last workout, just drop in, and leave with value and learn, like, hey, this is what I specialize in, is, CrossFit athletes, whatever population they see, and letting them know, like, is there any way that I can help you?
Right.
I want to keep your members, healthy and fit, and I'm not going to tell them to stop working out. And then it leads into asking them, yeah, how can I help you? And if they have a hard time coming up with ideas, like, this is something we've had success with in the past, and is doing workshops. And then that's like, oh, that's a great idea. We'd love to have you come in and do these workshops for our members. And yeah, so it's a pretty easy conversation to have when you lead with value, and
Yeah.
talk about them. Don't talk about yourself and what you're going to get out of it. So
Right. Talking about that, did anyone ever tell you you need to get like a OCS certified, or did you ever do that?
no, I was just like, I wanted to invest in, going out of school. You have a lot of education, more than people realize,
Yeah.
and sometimes I think we doubt ourselves too. And yeah, so I was just like, I'm going to invest in the business side of things, because that's where I was lacking,
Mhm.
more so than the clinical aspect in mine.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Did you see this as a risk at all, starting your own cash practice, especially right out of school?
No, I didn't. A little bit, but in reality, looking back at it, it's not really a risk. The way I looked at it was, if I most likely I'm gonna be paying off loans the rest of my life,
Mhm.
you know, what's really the risk? And so I dove into it, and yeah, I'm glad I did. And looking back, yeah, it really wasn't as much of a risk as I originally thought.
Yeah. Why is it that you think some people think it's risky, or even like new grads? I mean, I'm sure you've been told like you shouldn't. Did you get told like you shouldn't start a practice, or did people say, "Oh, what are you doing?"
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times it's out of people trying to protect you. At the same
Yeah.
time, because I had family members and friends tell me, like, this isn't going to work. I also had professors and classmates like, this is never going to work. it's not realistic, and whatnot. And some of them are, yeah, have your best interests at heart and just trying to protect you and whatnot. So yeah, I heard all of it. This isn't going to work. Um, be realistic about things
Yeah.
and whatnot. But I had the confidence from your podcast and all these other podcasts of other people doing it. I'm like, why not me? Why are these people so special that they're the only ones that can make it work? And I had, case studies from your podcast of all your guests that you had on. And, I had the confidence that it really didn't bother me too much hearing that. If anything, it kind of was more motivation than anything, hearing that. So
Awesome, dude. That's so awesome. Because when I got out of school, even when I was in school, people said, "Aaron, where are you going to work?" I said, "LeBauer Physical Therapy." They're like, "Oh," and they would give me this weird look, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm starting my own business." And they're like, "Can you do that?" I'm like, "Is there a law that says I can't?" Right? Um, why do you feel like where does that come from? Do you know?
I don't know. I mean, it's just, you are who you surround yourself with. And, when I had, the confidence from you and all these other people and resources, that's where the confidence came from. And then just reading up on, other books that aren't related to physical therapy, but business in general, and just building that confidence up. But it doesn't come easy. That was the hardest part, was building that confidence up and
Yeah.
whatnot as you go through that, because there are hard times. There's so many ups and downs. You can't get too high, you can't get too low with things, and that's been the toughest part is that.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the biggest up so far?
Probably the biggest up was actually, so I'll kind of give you a run through after kind of what happened from April,
Mm-hmm.
and then through the summer, because that led up to kind of the big wins, and where we started seeing you know big increase in revenue and whatnot. So yeah, April I was full time, 25 to 30 patients, but I was like, I'm stuck. I felt
Right.
kind of stuck in the sense that I can't see more patients. You know, I want to get back to Iowa. Now I have this business.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do with this? I don't want to throw this all away. So things went on all through the summer, and I started looking to hire a PT, and hired on a PT. I think it was, yeah, it was August, and we were ramping him up, and we think we ramped him up in about 4 months full
Yeah.
time. And it was about this time that I started in your mastermind program too. And so my rates at the time were 175, and after a conversation with you, that next week, I raised it to 225, and which was kind of nerve wracking when you're raising your rates, thinking that this is going to decrease the number of patients, especially when you're trying to ramp another PT, your newly hired PT on, raising the rates by $50, and then ramping him up at the same time. So that was a scary time, but we really didn't see much of a drop off.
Mm-hmm.
I almost kind of have a thinking that it actually helped. It kind of, because there's other cash-based PTs in the area that charge right around 150, 175.
Right.
And so people think, if I'm paying this money, this is the best of the best. We actually had a few patients that told us they came and saw us because we were the most expensive. And
That's
yeah,
awesome.
and yeah, because they wanted the best of the best, and
Yeah.
so but yeah, so that's kind of our big turning point when I hired on that PT, and that was around the 9 to 10 month mark, and we hit the 1 year mark of being in business in November
Mm-hmm.
2019, and we had generated $140,000 in that first year,
Nice.
and yeah, and then now that PT's full time, and he's seeing about 35 patients, and then we just hired on a new PT, and he's at about 15, 20. But now that I'm taking more of an administrative role, and
Mm-hmm.
this is how I'm trying to slowly work my way out of the business, because that third PT is the one that will be sticking around here to allow me to return back to Iowa in September. So yeah, right now we're seeing about 60 patients a week, and last month we generated about $40,000, and we're seeing about 50 patients a week, and this month we're on pace to hit 50,000. So yeah, and our goal for the year 2020 is to hit $750,000, and right now we're on pace to do that based on our growth so far. So hopefully this goes to show
Yeah.
what's possible as PTs, and and we're so much worth so much more than copays. Or my personal favorite is us new grads being lowballed 60,000 coming out of school.
Right.
But yeah, so that's
No,
kind of
I get
our
it.
big win was hiring on.
Dude, that's awesome. Congratulations. And I just, one, I thank you for sharing that, because I think that, as you and I both agree, it's not about the money, but we all need to understand, we've got these
Mhm.
loans, we've got so much value and transformation we share with people. And, it's not even like, it's just, people need to know, like, yeah, this is possible, for you. And
Right,
you're not the first one, you won't be the
exactly.
last, but it's just to know that you can come out of school as a new grad and just crush it if you put your mind to it. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, Ben, tell me, so obviously you're doing really well. What I want to know, like you had mentioned, you got the ups and downs. Like, what's been some of the hardest downs? What's been some of the hardest, challenges you've had in growing your business?
Yeah, it's mainly managing people. So that's not my wheelhouse, not what I went to school for.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just a lot of the, also in being in California, there's so many legal issues and whatnot. So it's jumping through all those hoops, jumping through on how does the proper way to hire somebody on, what should the pay structure be, bonuses, compensation, health insurance, 401ks, and setting all that up. So that's been kind of the toughest part, is navigating all that.
Yeah. What's the how'd you figure it out? Did you get a lawyer to help you? Did you read it in a book? Like, how'd you get through some of those?
Yeah, so a lot of it was from things I had learned from your podcast, and then also some part of your mastermind group. I can bounce ideas off of you and the other people that are part of that mastermind as well. But yeah, I did hire on a lawyer to establish the business entity. Reached out to I have an accountant, also have a financial advisor, and because you can try and figure out all these things, but your time's worth some money. Like, I could be seeing a patient for the time that I'm trying to figure out all this other stuff. Why don't I hire somebody else that's going to do it and do it right, rather than worry about if me doing it and then not messing it up and then spending a lot of time trying to correct it,
Right.
and just then to hire a specialist to do it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
How'd you figure out? How, how'd you figure that out? How'd you figure out that your time is worth more than what you could basically pay someone to do it for you?
Yeah, so I've heard it a couple of from a lot of different sources. Like I said, reading books of business in general, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily related to PT. I've heard you say it. I've heard all these other successful business owners say the same thing. The most valuable asset you have is your time.
Yeah.
And there's the main thing was, if I see a patient, one patient for an hour, that's 225, right? It's going
Mm-hmm.
to take me much longer than an hour to figure all this stuff out. If I spend 2 hours treating patients, I can take that 450 and pay a specialist to handle it, right? And not have to worry about if it's done right. So it's kind of a mindset shift. But that didn't happen right away. You know,
Yeah.
it comes over time after hearing it over and over again.
Yeah. Was there anything that specifically happened where you were like, oh, damn, I'm not doing that again? You know, where you're like, I
Yeah,
just spent 5 hours looking up something and I really should
yeah,
be.
yeah. It was mainly like the accounting piece. You know, it's so nerve wracking. You got employees, you've got, you know, your business entity, you got your personal finances, keeping track of all that, what's tax deductible, what's not, and all that. That was the big thing. I wasted like, I don't even want to know how many hours trying to figure all that out. I read the book Profit First, which was a great book and highly recommend. So that helped me a lot with things. But yeah, hiring an accountant was big, and that's kind of the turning point. I'm just like, I just kind of gave in. It's like, this needs to be handed out to somebody else.
Yeah. What's the I've heard of Profit First. I actually haven't read it myself. What's the big theme there? What was the big takeaway for you from that?
Yeah, I guess to put in a nutshell is, so they use an analogy of, you know, if you're brushing it, you're using toothpaste, right? You've got this, when you first buy it, you're kind of careless with how much you put on the toothbrush, right? But guess what? When you get down to that list bit, guess how conservative you are with that, right? You can make it last really a long time. They kind of attribute that to also finances as well and business expenses, you know? So they tell you, instead of, the general thinking is to pay yourself last after expenses and all this, they tell you, no, you should pay yourself first. And then, because that narrows down how much money you can work with, right? So you're much more conservative with that back end money, and it just makes you less careless. It's more of a psychology type of thing, and whatnot. But that's kind of in a nutshell the best way to, I can probably explain it.
Right. So you have yourself on a salary right now versus paying yourself per treatment.
Yeah, exactly. So, because I'm an S corp, I get tax breaks with that. You pay yourself a reasonable salary, and that's taxed at a certain amount, and you can take distributions out after that 60,000, and you're not taxed at such a high rate. So, yeah.
Awesome. And so, tell me a little bit more about your clinic's trajectory. You guys went within a year you hired another employee, right?
Yeah, I think it was about the 9 or 10 month mark. We hired on that first PT.
Okay. And then how was it, like, how many patients were you seeing at that time, and how did you know, okay, I'm ready to hire them? Was it just because you were lacking time and seeing 25 people?
It was just, you know, I was seeing it, and so it was like, I got to this point, I'm like, you know, my big thing is I had no intention of staying out here in the Bay Area. I don't intend to raise a family out here. And, you know, I've got to start making moves to allow me to remove myself from the business. And I'm like, I need to start hiring. I need to start finding that right fit. And so that's bringing on other PTs, and then bringing on a front desk and establishing systems. Because right now I'm seeing like 10 to 15 patients a week right now. And allowing the other PTs to see the patients, so I can start establishing these systems and get everything in place for me to leave in September, and make sure that other PTs comfortable and brought up to speed with everything.
Yeah. Awesome. So we got another PT on, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, they're busy. I'm busy. I'm mired in like admin work, and you hired another PT.
Yeah.
Why did you go PT route versus like an admin at that point?
Yeah. Because the main thing is I wanted for somebody to be and bring them on and have them be in control of the business when I leave. I wanted them to be a PT, and so it was imperative. I could have hired on a front desk, but you can have a front desk, but if I don't have somebody that is, you know, going to keep this going, that admin doesn't mean anything, right? So my big thing was finding somebody to get them started comfortable with the systems and how we do things, bring them to speed from the business aspect of things, marketing, selling, seeing patients, and systemizing everything, bringing them up to speed first, and then bringing on a front desk was the route that I went. You know, you can go, I hear both ways on, should you bring on a PT or should you bring on a front desk? You know, I think it's up to the clinician or the PT that's in charge of the business on what their personal preference is. But for me, mine is a pretty unique situation. So I had to bring on a PT.
What systems are you putting into place that are going to allow you to take off and go back to Iowa?
Yeah, so like writing every single thing that we do down, how we do workshops, how we do the phone script, how we sell on the phone, how we sell during the evaluation, what systems the systems that we have in place for Instagram, Facebook, just every day-to-day activity, like the hit by the bus test. If I was hit by bus, everything needs to be able to continue to move forward. And so going through all the systems that we have, and that's why I've been removing myself from patient care, and the business has still been able to be, survive. And now we're at the point of bringing that administrative assistant up to speed on everything, because I'm doing more admin stuff than I am PT treating now. So
what would you rather be doing?
I'd rather be, I actually like the business side of things. I would ideally like to be seeing about 10 to 20 patients, and doing the rest of the marketing, the sales, and fine tuning that process. Getting into business made me realize how much I really actually love it. And so I like having that hybrid where I get kind of a best of both worlds.
Yeah, that's awesome. What, so tell me, so you're planning on leaving for Iowa before the end of the year, I think you said in September.
Yep, September. Yep.
What do you have to get done? Because this is pretty unique, because you started a business and you're getting ready to leave it and move out of state. So what needs to happen for you? Like, what do you systems? So you've got all the basic things, how we do it, right? But what else needs to happen so that this business that you've created and built survives and thrives while you're 1,000 miles away?
Yeah. So big thing is ramping up this third PT that will be taking over, and getting him comfortable with everything. So yeah, he's at about 15, 20 patients a week now. We're going to cap him at 30 because he's still going to need 10 hours to kind of do everything that I've been doing at least. I'm still going to be able to help from afar and whatnot. It's not like I'm leaving the Bay Area and never coming back. I'm going to have to fly back quite frequently to start out, and slowly wean myself off of that. But yeah, we're ideally, based on the projections on how quickly he's ramped up so far, we should have him ramped up full-time by end of May. And we've been doing interviews already for that fourth PT. And so we want to ideally have that fourth PT fully ramped up by the time September rolls around. So I'll give us May to September to ramp him up. And right now it's been a lot of training for that front desk. And I've got a to-do list. I go through that to-do list and offload as much. I go through it and figure out what can I offload to this admin. And so that's kind of where we're at in the process. So, and then removing myself completely from patient care. So, which hasn't been a problem. I was seeing 30 and down to 10, and we're not seeing any negative impacts by that. So
that's awesome. And then what happens when you move to Iowa? What then?
Do it all over again. So so now I got the experience, and I'm confident I can be just as successful in Iowa as I am here. I keep hearing over and over again that nobody's going to pay as much for PT out here as they are in Iowa. That may be true, but guess what? Rent's not going to be as high. The cost to employ PTs is going to be so high. Taxes aren't going to be so high. Yeah, it offsets a little bit with things. So I won't be able to most likely charge maybe as much. We'll see. I've also know there's other PTs out there in Iowa. I think there's 2 that are charging over 200, and they seem to be doing fine. So who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, I'm in Greensboro.
Yeah, exactly. So I keep hearing over and over again that same people in Bay Area in Iowa are buying the iPhone. Same people in Bay Area buying the iPhone. Everybody's just, where do people see value, and showing people that value of what you bring. So
yeah, absolutely. Can you would you mind sharing a little bit about the incentives for your employees that you have, and how are you attracting talent? Because I know, 1, you're in the Bay Area, which is a really expensive place to live. And 2, I know there've been other PTs in the Bay Area who've I can't find a PT to come work for me. And it seems like you've had some success in doing that. So what are some of the incentives, and how are you attracting some of these A team members to come work for you?
Yeah, so mainly we put on the ad on Indeed, and then also just from networking too. I did an interview with a PT who ended up not being a good fit, but he knew somebody that was interested, and so and he ended up taking a different job. Long story short, that's how I found the third PT, who will also eventually be my business partner coming up here, as long as everything goes smoothly. And so it's mainly through networking that I've been able to find the PT so far. And then also because the PT that I hired on to become my business partner, he went to school out here. So guess what? he's got a lot of connections with other people in his class that are interested in doing the same thing. So we have 2 people there, and then one other person that we've already done a phone interview with that should be a good fit. And he's kind of just waiting to hear back from us on when we're ready and doing an in-person interview with him and the other 2. So it's mainly, networking and word of mouth more than anything.
Awesome. And then are you doing something where like you're putting them on salary? Are they getting paid per treatment, or is there a mix of that, just depending?
Yeah, it's a mix. The full-time PT, he's salaried. And we are getting in place like 401ks and the health insurance and whatnot. I actually just applied for the health insurance for the business yesterday. And speaking with my financial advisor about the 401ks and whatnot. So when we hire on this 4th PT, that will be available. But right now, because they're not getting those benefits, they're getting paid at a higher rate. And it's also based on what that PT values. Does a PT value getting paid more per hour and then not getting those benefits? Does a PT really really value those benefits? What do they value? And then we also give the PTs a choice. Do they want to be seeing 40 patients a week, or they rather see 30 to 35 and go out and do these networking events and establish content and whatnot? Because that's one thing we're starting to implement is creating courses like ankle mobility, how to improve hip mobility, to improve your squat, stuff like that, and video recording our workshops that we do to be able for people to be able to purchase online. And so that's where that PT can contribute that as well. Instead of if they just want to see 30 patients a week and then spend another 10 hours, developing content, that's something you can do too. If they want to see 40 patients, great. It's up to them. And I think that's been kind of a big incentive to bring other PTs on, is letting them choose kind of their own path and letting them know that there's not really a ceiling on earning potential too. So.
Right. That's awesome. That's awesome. What, Ben, like what would you tell like a new grad who's listening, who's trying to figure out like, should I really make a jump and start a cash practice or not? Like, what do they need to hear? What do you have to say for them?
Yeah. So, great question. So first question I'd ask them is, what's holding them back? If it's that they feel like it's too big of a risk, especially with student loans, like I said earlier, my response is that's actually a bigger risk not to do it with the amount of student loans PTs are leaving school with now. In May, that'll be my 2-year mark of being out of school, and I'll have paid off $130,000 in debt that I otherwise would have been probably paying off the rest of my life if I would have taken a corporate job and whatnot. So, but yeah, and if you're not doing traveling or working full time and doing PRN on the side, most likely you're gonna be paying off your student loans, for a long time. And even then, if you're doing all that, you still might be. So honestly, what do you have to lose? And let's say for some reason the cash-based practice route doesn't work. Guess what? The demand for PT is so high, you'll have no trouble finding a job in the future to fall back on. At least you gave it a shot and a try. And even though if you do the right things and put the work in, there's no reason the cash-based practice won't work. And then another thing is, and I hear this a lot too, is the second reason is I feel most new grads feel scared to take this leap because of mentorship, which is, my opinion, pretty ridiculous. And I think this is kind of an easy excuse to use. And essentially the same people using this excuse will probably go on to tell themselves that, oh, once they get to the mentorship, they'll do it, right? But like I said, this more often than not, it's an excuse. And this just leaves more excuses, as once they get more mentorship, the next excuse will be, oh, we have a wedding coming up. It's bad timing. Now it's bad timing because we're expecting. Now it's bad timing because we have a family. As you can see, one excuse kind of just leads to another. So, yeah.
Yeah.
No better time than now to do it. So,
right.
But yeah, back to the whole mentorship thing though. We went to school for 7 years and went through rigorous testing and clinicals to be licensed physical therapists. I see often on these Facebook threads from different PT Facebook groups of senior physical therapists stating, how no new grad has any business starting their own practice, which kind of makes me laugh, because the majority of the patients that seek my practice out are ones that I get, that have gone to other physical therapy practice I get the best results with, and ones that have failed the other PTs at multiple different physical therapy practices prior, where I guarantee they were probably being treated by the same so-called superior PTs with more experience. Don't get me wrong, I'm not some PT with all this wisdom and superior knowledge. I was just kind of like middle of the pack with regards to my graduating class. But guess what I can do with these patients that other physical therapy practice can't? and these so-called superior PTs with all this, background and experiences, I can spend more time with these patients. I have more time to educate them about their pathology.
Mm-hmm.
I have the time to talk to them about pain science. I have the time to ensure them that they will get back to all the activities they want to get back to and restore their confidence. I have the time because a cash-based practice allows me to do so, and because I'm no longer worried about having to bill a certain amount of units. I don't have to please some insurance company that doesn't have the patient's best interest at heart and all that. So, and on top of that, I have the time to slow things down and problem solve things through that, I didn't when I was a PT working in a network practice. I actually feel that my growth as a PT is better because I started a cash-based practice versus if I had stayed at an in-network practice, jumping from patient to patient and table to table every 15 to 30 minutes and really acting more as a waiter than a PT, it felt like it sometimes. So, but yeah, I can hear some people criticizing the statement still and screaming, what about mentorship? Right. Is it beneficial to have other PTs in the clinic to bounce ideas off of? Absolutely. Is it necessary? Absolutely not. Like I mentioned earlier, we went through 7 years of school and went through grueling testing, clinical rotations that all indicated that we were entry level and therefore completely capable of seeing patients on our own. And I put my money where my mouth is because guess what? The 2 PTs that I've hired on, both new grads. And will you have zero mentorship if you start your own practice right out of school? It depends. Are you going to actively seek out mentorship or not? In my opinion, that's not dependent on if you're starting your own practice or not. Luckily, I surrounded myself with great PTs and ones that I knew were just a phone call away. And on top of that, I would be looking at, what the most current research was on different topics and that I was struggling with. And on the weekends and multiple times a week, I would also call these various PTs asking for advice and what I should be doing with tougher patients I was seeing. And guess what? 90% of the time, 99% of the time, I was right in doing exactly what they would have done. And the other 1% of the time, I was on the right track,
Mm-hmm.
And like I said earlier, this isn't because I'm some great PT, way beyond my years or anything like that. It's just as humans and as PTs, we underestimate ourselves more often than not. And we really do have the required knowledge to be successful. It's usually our lack of confidence that actually gets in the way. But like I said, I feel my growth as a PT is significantly greater because I started practice right out of school. So, but at the same time, don't get me wrong. Should every new grad who has ambition to start a cash-based practice right out of school do it? Not exactly. It's not for everyone, but for the ones it's not right for, it's rarely ever because they don't have the necessary PT background and necessary PT knowledge to do so, but rather because they don't have the drive, confidence, or business knowledge or guidance from somebody else that's done it before to do it successfully. And that's why it's important to have a business coach or someone else guiding you. And it's not easy, but it's 110% possible if you do the right things and have the right guidance. So, yeah.
Dude, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Because one, I agree with you. Two, I think it's important for people to hear, and apparently we have to say it a few times. But I think it is like, my mentor who was a text away is right down the street from you up in Oakland, Alan Link from PT Innovations. Like he was just text me anytime. 9 out of 10 times he's like, oh, that's exactly what I would do. I'm like, well, thanks. Did you have anyone specific, like were there clinical instructors or even Victoria maybe who was?
Victoria was always there to bounce ideas off of. And people I graduated from PT school with, past clinical instructors, people that I knew that I graduated from the same physical therapy school that I had that were 3 or 4 years ahead of me. And were just brilliant. I was always able to, at least get opinions from at least one, if not all 3 or 4 of them and whatnot. So
that's awesome. Well, Ben, we're about out of time. Is there anything else you want to add, like for someone who's starting or even like been in the game for a while and wants to, keep growing?
Imperfect action is better than no action at all. So you say it all the time, 80% is good enough. Just take that leap. Just do it. There's no better time than now.
Awesome, man. Well, if someone wants to reach out to you or even just like stalk your website, where do they find you? Where do they find you online?
Yeah, so you guys can email me at ben@prokineticsrehab.com, and I'm sure Aaron will also put my email in the podcast notes as well to help you find me more easily. And then also my website, www.prokineticsrehab.com. If you're a new grad or looking at how to get started with your own cash-based practice, I'm happy to help guide you in the right direction. and you can just, yeah, reach out to my email. And then, like I said, we're also looking for other awesome PTs to bring on to our practice. So if you or someone you know is looking for an awesome place where they can work with active population, 1-on-1 for an hour, check it out.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. And you guys do like performance, like gym, like not just
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
because
Everybody we work with is active. People that are runners trying to get back to running, get back to CrossFit, back to deadlifting, squatting. Everybody's active and extremely motivated
yeah,
and whatnot, which makes it fun too.
dude, that's so awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this grows and how things go when you get to Iowa and all that. And hopefully my trip to California in the next month is not interrupted too much, because I'd love to get together with you and Alan and some other people out there. But I really appreciate you being here. For all you guys out there, if you have any questions or whatever, reach out to Ben or reach out to me or post in the CashPT Nation, and just go all in, take the chance. Like as Ben said, there's never been a better time to get started in business and physical therapy than now. So, and it's never going to get any better. So take a leap, go all in, and we'll see you guys on the next show. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate it.